I wanted to show you so many dolls from this auction because there are so many, aside from the elegant and the beautiful and the exquisite and the so rare of the pieces I've shown you so far, we have so many just fun dolls in this auction and fun pieces. Like there's one little room I wanted to show you. It's a folk art room, and it's called, I forgot what it was called, but it's some hand-carved wooden skeletons sitting at a bar in a diorama. And it's an American folk art from like the 1930s. Lots of great pieces like that, wonderful things. But here's just a little bit more of what I want to show you. Here we have our wonderful friends, Max and Moritz, and who can ever tire of looking at them and tire of knowing their wonderful story? The little brats of the, originally of the 1800s, from the Wilhelm Busch stories of Max and Moritz, and then eventually kind of appropriated into American culture in this comic strip series known as the Katzenjammer Kids. And they were, I'm going to tell you, I read some of the things that they did in these original books. They were beyond mischievous. They'd be in deep trouble today. But here, as far as we say, we're looking at them and they're just cute, and they have their original flirty eyes and original costumes, and everything about them is wonderful. The Cameron Reinhardts, by the way, were made with, and let me pull this up so you can see it, they were made with very distinctive original bodies with the painted shoes, sculpted and painted shoes on them. So when you're looking for these, you always want to make sure that you either have the original bodies or that you pay an appropriate price not to have the original bodies. It's all, knowledge is power, folks. Okay, I'm going to move these. And then to make a little more room, I wanted to show you these three dolls because we have a nice little group of dolls from the Ellis Smith studios who made the Alabama Baby. And I thought these were interesting because you have three different models. The taller girl on top is the classic Alabama Baby. When you think of one in your mind's eye, you think of what it will look like. This is it, and I'm going to turn her sideways because I want you to see the outstanding painting on her hair. It is incredible. Shaded coloring, swirling ringlet curls all around. Very, very beautiful. Absolutely perfectly preserved doll. She's wonderful. But then here's two variations. Did you ever see one with the wig? Very, very different. Little Alabama Baby with the wig, and she has brown eyes just like her bigger sister did, and she has the painted blue boots. They come either barefoot or different colors of painted blue boots. So that's a very sweet Alabama Baby. And then with the rare blue eyes and big blue eyes, and look at her hair, modernizing her as the turn of the century came around and it got to be into the 1910s and early 1920s. Let's have not that curly hair from earlier, but let's have the bobbed hair of that time period. And that's what her later dolls did with those big, big eyes and painted yellow boots. So three examples of Alabama Babies. So you can never say, I own an Alabama Baby, that's enough. You have to get one of every type. Now I can spread out here a little because I have some dolls with great stories I want to tell you. And well, I wanted to show you these three little ones because I wanted to say, never assume when you look at a doll, oh, you've seen the doll and you see the face, you see the costume, because sometimes you have to peek under the costume and find, oh, now let me see, oh, there it is. Look under the skirt of this wonderful doll, and it has the original company that produced this doll, making dolls of their costumes and dolls of their region. And there's the original label. And then we have, look, while we have it up, I want to show you 1, 2, 3 levels of petticoats and skirt, and then even the apron with her wonderful little headdress. And I'm going to turn it around so you can see all the way around. That's a sweet, sweet little doll. And then her little companions, and the little girl is lifting her petticoat because she wants to show you her original label too. So we know now that they are wearing wonderful little costumes from Czechoslovakia. And it even tells you who made them. And there we have the multi-levels again. We have the beautiful embroidered vest We have her headdress that goes all the way around the back. I love those little dolls. They are so sweet. Okay, they have stayed fresh all these years. I wanted to show you Glady because I think sometimes we don't pay enough attention to our wonderful core of women artists at the turn of the century who were artists in their own right, either as magazine illustrators or in Helen Jensen's case, who designed Glady as a statue carving person, has statues in California and various places. And she did design this doll, which was commissioned and produced for George Borgfeldt, who sold it under the name of Glady. And it was designed by Helen Jensen and bears her name on the doll. And this is one wearing its original costume, and it's a very, very great example. Glady was made in this earthenware material with the hand-painted details or in a poured bisque, made both ways, and in all bisque as well as the larger child size. While we're talking about artists, how about Dewees Cochran? Who can ever deny the wonderful dolls that she made? And there is a great book coming out eventually by Ann Lees that's going to cover all of the information about these dolls, and I'm so proud of her, and she's wonderful in sharing with me. Every time I need information, I call her, I say, Ann, I'm here, share, tell me, and she does. And she has shared with me information about these dolls, and they are wonderful, early, fine examples of two of the Dewees Cochrans made in her own studio models, made by her. This one, the taller one, being from the Look-alike series, and what people could do is they could send a photograph in of their child, and then she had certain basic models that she drew from, but she would then paint the doll to look like that family's child, and they're so precious and rare to find. Sometimes you can find them with the original family provenance of who the child was, and that is a great thing. Now look, every auction has mysteries, and this one does too, and I'm going to give a free calendar for this year that is now half over for anyone who can tell me who or what this doll is. Very, I'll tip it, maybe the camera can get her face better this way. She's in this pugilistic pose with the boxing gloves molded on her hands. These are not just placed on there, they're actually modeled and painted on her hands, and she's standing ready to fight. I have no idea, and I think she's absolutely fabulous, and I would love to know more about her. I just think whoever buys her, I hope you like her, and she's a symbol to you of something strong. She's a great piece. I have 4 characters I wanted to show you because these are all, again, in the little category. Look at this one, Wendy, the doll everyone loves, everyone cherishes and wants to own, and here she is in the tiniest little size that you will ever see. She's absolutely grand. And then we have 3 dolls from the Simon and Halbig early closed-mouth character series that, again, are very seldom ever found. And Luann Gulasarian acquired these slowly and carefully over the years. Whenever she saw one at our auction, she said, I'm getting that doll. I want that whole Simon and Halbig early series. And here they are, the 3 of them. Very rare, very choice. And I want to show you now 3 dolls that I think have wonderful backstories. And if you know me, you know I love backstories with a doll. The first is this absolutely gorgeous Gibson Girl by Kestner. I'm going to show you the doll first. Outstanding costume, outstanding doll. Designed by a male American illustrator at the turn of the century, around about 1910, Charles Dana Gibson, and he was noted for, he was married to a high society New York woman, and he was noticed for doing illustrations of the social group in which they habituated. And his women all have that snooty, nose in the air kind of look, and very special, distinctive look. But I'm cataloging this one, and I find this pair of kid gloves that's pinned on the side of her costume. And I looked at it, and it said Harris, and then it has the address in Brooklyn, New York. So I went searching. Do you know, I think we should take a minute to give kudos to our people, early people who wrote doll books and who did doll research. I'll call them the pre-internet years. It had to be so impossible to find information, or you'd write letters and you'd hope someone would answer you back, or, it was impossible. Today, you can find good research. You have to authenticate it, make sure it's right, but there it is. So here, look at this. Here's the pages I have about that address where these gloves were done. And it was this building where this glove company was originally a 4-story brick home on 865 Broadway, built in 1843. And then this story goes on and tells all about the businesses that were there, because it's quickly left being a home and turned into businesses. And it had a checkered career. I want to tell you, it goes from one thing to another, from jewelers to fashion makers to the people who made the gloves. And there was one time they had a theft there of a sealskin sack valued at $200, which was actually, they say, $4,500 today. And then there was an Asian culture store there in 1883. And then in the first years of the 1890s, the Harris brothers, name on the gloves, manufacturers of expensive gloves, held a long-term lease on the building. But the first signs of trouble appeared in late September 1893, when the New York Times reported that the firm had sought to sell its lease. Well, they went into deeper and deeper trouble. They couldn't get out of their lease, and the two brothers continued to struggle on. Their merchandise included ladies' kid gloves and suede. And 3 months later, as the holidays approached, the Harris brothers launched a half-price sale, and they got customers, but then they rallied temporarily, according to the New York Times. I don't know why the New York Times would have that in an article, but so be it. Business afterward went down steadily. The brothers were forced to declare bankruptcy. The humiliation was too much for Albert. On Saturday morning, October 6, 1894, he got up about 6:30 in his home on East 72nd Street. 2 days later, the New York Times bluntly reported, this is shocking, this was the actual article in the paper. Arising before the rest of the family, he went down into the parlor and, after closing the heavy doors, blew his brains out. That was tough wording in a paper. Well, evidently the police got suspicious because the family, they hid the fact that he had had a suicide. They just said he died suddenly. The police got suspicious and started this investigation, and finally they said to the family, if you don't tell us a true story that happened here, we're arresting everyone for murder. So one of the brothers went down then and told, and they said they were embarrassed about it, so that took care after that. Then there was an auction gallery that was there for a while. Then there was a bric-a-brac and lamp store. It went on and on of the different stores that were there. Look, here's a ladies, it became known as the waist store because eventually a company came in that was making shirtwaist, the popular shirtwaist fashion of the 1910 period. And well, it just goes on, and so there it is. The store is still there today, and this is a picture of it. You can go online and you can actually see the store as it exists today. And that's just my diversion, but in the world of dolls, if we can't take diversions into the history of our dolls and the little histories that they carry with them with these gloves had to be like a little salesman sample that they gave out, because if you touch those gloves, the softness of that kid's skin, this was not a toy. This was a miniature salesman sample of the gloves they produced. And I'm sorry I diverted, but I'm going to divert it again because I'm going to tell you about this doll, which is also one that I found absolutely fascinating. So I honestly didn't know what this doll was. And my trusty curators who iron the clothes and all, and who look for marks on the dolls, found the marks on the doll of the Tebbetts sisters of Pittsburgh, the Tebbetts sisters of Pittsburgh, and also the name of the person who patented this doll. The Tebbetts sisters made the doll, but the doll was actually patented by a different person, And it was like a nice little business in their Pittsburgh home. Now, here's the story that I want to tell you. You can go online and you can look for the address of their home, which is marked on the back of the doll and which appears in the catalog. So I looked up the Tebbetts family, and I love this part. The Tebbetts were originally from Kentucky. Charles Tebbetts is listed as an actuary in the 1910 U.S. Census. He died sometime between 1915 and 1920. The doll was patented in 1920, so that's when the family's fortunes probably changed place. Because he and his wife had been the parents of 4 unmarried and enterprising daughters, Mary, Marion, Elizabeth, and Ruth, none of whom were ever married, and who all stayed in the family home. The family home, if you find the picture of it, it is so fascinating. This was originally a home built in, I think it was the 1840s, an Italianate-style villa on massive pieces of land. And as the original family owners eventually broke up the land into divisions and sold it off for people to build homes, and the original home of 1840 was purchased by the Tebbetts family and moved to their plot. So the actual home was moved. And there the 4 sisters lived their entire lives. And they made, well, not entire, because wait, I'll tell you. And for about a 5-year period, they made these dolls, which were evidently marketed in various places. And they're fully marked, but I've never seen one before, although I found references to them. There was a great article in Antique Doll Collector some few years ago. Eventually let's see, it was in all right, so this man who wrote this article interviewed anybody who was still alive. He interviewed one of my mother's old neighborhood friends who'd lived right across the street from the Tebbetts and is now an alert 101 years old. Told me recently she remembered seeing chauffeur-driven cars bring young children up to the Mrs. Tebbetts school. They evidently had a kindergarten school for children as well. And then the Tebbetts sisters made and dressed elaborate dolls for sale. And in the early 30s, at the peak of the Depression, and with their junior school now closed, the sisters were trying to come up with some other way to earn a living. Their father had died, and they were all 4 living in the family home. They hit upon the idea of teaching the art of needlepoint work to women who had time on their hands to spare. And so they made needlework designs with sort of like a paint-by-the-numbers thing, and they made kits with the amount of yarn you needed to put your needlework together and all, and they made a living off of this, and evidently it was so successful that finally in the 1950s, they sold the home and they moved to New England, and they were able to sell the business. So, sweetheart, that is your legacy right there, and you are fascinating. Stockinette doll with hand-painted features. Very, very wonderful doll. And I lied. I usually have 2 stories to tell you. I have 3 because I have to tell you the story of the pit brow doll. This is from the Erica Tanner collection in California, who did this wonderful research and wrote about this doll in an Antique Doll Collector article some few years back. And let me tell you about the pit brow dolls in case you missed the article. The doll is wearing its entirely original costume. And even before I knew the story, I was just taken with the doll. The quality of it, the beautiful paperweight eyes on it, haunting eyes, and this wonderful costume. So when I read the article, here is the story. The doll is wearing the costume of the pit brow mines in England. Now that was known, the women worked down in these coal mines along with the men. But in 1843, they decided the women did not belong down in the coal mines with the men. That was not their proper place. The coal mine was called the pit. They belonged, and there was a law that was passed saying that women could not go in the pit. They could only work on the brow, the edge, the outer edge of the coal mine, and there they could sort between the coal and the stones and the dirt. And so a costume was designed for them doing their work on the brow of the coal mines. For example, horrors of horrors, they were wearing trousers, pants. Their skirt was rolled up to become very short, so when they left work at night, they could then take the skirt down and make it the proper full-length skirt. They had little pads on the knees so they could bend down in the dirt and do the sorting without scuffing their knees. And they wore particular shoes, very, very unique shoes that were made for this type of work. A very, very distinctive and remarkable costume that is unbelievably preserved here. Well, there is another part to the story. After a period of time, it was decided that they wanted to outlaw, certain people decided they wanted to outlaw the work altogether, that women did not belong there. They belonged in the home making cookies, and they could not have these outside jobs. That was not a place for them to be. Let me just show you the skirt in the back, how it would end up coming down. Okay? So they tried to pass a law. The women who were the pit brow workers who worked on the outside of the mine all got in their costume, and they had a women's march on Parliament, and they defeated the law being passed so they could continue their work. And that is the story of the pit brow doll, and I think she is absolutely fabulous. And then finally, I want to end this portion by showing you an old friend. Those of you who follow our Facebook page or who follow us and who get our various newsletters and our shopping bags and all through the year have known this as our signature doll. It is an A.T. Kestner, made by the Kestner company, but with a facial modeling so similar to the A.T. doll that it has become generically known in our doll collecting world as the A.T. Kestner. And sometime, probably about 20 years ago, I really don't remember when, we had this doll in our possession, and we just took it on, and it sort of became our signature doll. We have never owned it. It has been in a private collector's home, and now they have decided they're selling it, and people keep saying, but that doll, that should belong to you. And I said, no, but Stuart has a great idea. His idea is that 10 of you should buy it together and each take timeshares on the doll, and you each have it for a certain portion of each year. And then, out of the kindness of your heart, you let her live here for a couple weeks a year. But there she is, the beautiful A.T. Kestner. We have some wonderful miniature furniture and pieces of that ilk in the auction, including an organ that's about this tall. It's absolutely great. Wonderful chest of drawers and things. But this is one of a kind. No, it's not one of a kind, but it probably is. It's a Salesman sample barber chair. Now, when I say Salesman sample, I really mean it. This was a manufacturer's sample of a chair that he could make. Now, barber chairs were big. This company, the Theriault Coach Company, K-O-C-H-S, began their existence, here is the name on the bottom of the chair, began their existence in the about 1860, and they made barber chairs out of carved walnut wood. By the 1920s, which is when this chair is from, they were making their chairs of chrome and porcelain, which had become very popular. This is a Salesman sample that they made to have their agents travel around to different places and show you. They made, in 1920, they had 9 different models of their barber chair that you could buy in various luxury degree. You have an adjustable footrest. You had adjustable headrest. The seat could go back. It had hydraulic lift on it. This is, I don't know what I can say to just not keep waxing on and on about this piece, because I absolutely love it. Stuart wrote a Facebook page about it, and he said that whoever buys it, he will send a lock of his hair, which you know how precious that is, along with whoever buys this barber chair. And look, it even comes with its original case in which the chair is fitted. Why, I guess, it's been preserved so perfectly all these years with the manufacturer's name, Theriault Coach, on the footrest there and the footrest here. A fabulous piece.